Commanders hire Dan Quinn to match with their new general manager, Adam Peters, to lead this franchise into the future.
The way that we live is not for everybody, okay? It's not, all right? Because we're going to run and put our bodies on people in a violent manner.
Whether the team is giving us the highest of highs or the bluest of blues, we'll cover it all here. The Commanders Nightly News. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. Who knew 7 field goals could get you a slice of first place? Hey, how about that? The Philadelphia Eagles fell last night to the Atlanta Falcons in dramatic fashion. We talked about it on the Overtime show last night. It was a hell of a show. If you didn't have a chance to check it out, go do yourself a favor. It's one of the most enjoyable shows I've done in quite some time. We had a lot of fun last night. That said, one of the biggest takeaways from that game last night is that the Eagles aren't that much different than the rest of the division. And we'll talk more about this division in particular in other news a little bit later on in this program. But what we found out last night is that the Eagles aren't that much different than the rest of the division from a defensive standpoint. And if you can't play consistent defense, then you're going to struggle to win consistently in this league because you can't outscore opponents every single week. Dallas found that out this past weekend versus the New Orleans Saints. You can't just show up and think you're going to outscore teams if you don't play competent defense. And this division's defense is trash. And that division trash includes the Philadelphia Eagles. Felt like there could be some exclusion with them. They're a little bit different. The roster's a little bit more advanced, et cetera, et cetera. That's not the case. And, Eagles fans can try to tell you, well, we didn't have A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown doesn't play corner. A.J. Brown doesn't play linebacker. A.J. Brown doesn't rush the quarterback. The Eagles have zero pass rush, okay? All this Howie Roseman ski mask, Howie talk, and all of that bullshit. Howie Roseman had a lot of missteps this offseason. One of those missteps could be trading a third-round pick for Jahan Dotson. That's to be continued. Jahan may ultimately work out for them. It hasn't gotten off to a rousing start. But what did you expect from a guy that got to the Eagles camp literally, a week or two before the season started? This is to be expected. We'll see if he picks it up moving forward. But right now, he has done next to nothing in an Eagles uniform. You would have thought this would have been one of those games where no A.J. Brown. All right, we're going to see an expanded role for Jahan Dotson. Not the case. And then trading away Hassan Reddick for a 2025, not a 2024, a 2025, I believe it was, third-round pick, or 2026. It's something out into the future, third-round pick. To not pay this man so that you can go give that money to Bryce Huff so he can do absolutely nothing. Look, that's not our problem. Okay, that's not our issue. All right, we're good over here. We got none of those issues. We got our own set of issues, own set of problems. But you know what feels really good? It feels really good to win a game within the division, something we did not do last season. It feels really good to win a game at home, something we had not done since week 1 of last season. Okay, it feels really good to just win a game in general. We had not done that since week 9 of last season. And you know what also feels good? Feels good to know that that gap between Dallas and Philadelphia and the rest of the division, i.e. the Giants and Commanders, essentially, right, isn't as wide as it once was. And I've been saying that, and people told me I was crazy this offseason when I said that gap it's becoming more and more narrow, right? There isn't that seismic gap between the Eagles and the Cowboys and the Commanders and the Giants, right? It was the haves and the have-nots. And there was no okay, there's an in-between here. No, they were way up here and the Giants and Commanders were way down here, right? That is no longer the case. Now, again, we may get into the season and there may be a little separation, but I've said this already. I don't think there's a 12-win team in this division this year. Cowboys have won 12 games 3 years in a row. Eagles have been right there on their coattails every year. And in 2022, the Eagles were a 14-win team, okay? There's no such 14, 13, 12-win team in this division this year. The most anybody will win is 11, and that might be a stretch. This division might be won this year with 10 games. Keep in mind, this division plays the AFC North, right? Now, while that may have sounded a little bit more intimidating before the season started, now that the Ravens are 0-2 and the Bengals are 0-2 and the Steelers are 2-0, but they can't score any points, and the Browns look like they stink, maybe play a little bit of defense. It doesn't sound as daunting, and it doesn't look as daunting as of a task on paper right now, but it's still Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. See what the Cowboys do with them this weekend. It's still Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. We'll see what we do with them on Monday night, right? It's still the Pittsburgh Steelers with TJ Watt and that defense. And it's still the Cleveland Browns with Myles Garrett and that defense. You're going to get tripped up in that division somewhere along the way. There will be no sweeping of full divisions for Dallas and Philadelphia. We already knew we weren't sweeping anybody's division. It's not about us, because we're going through a process, right? We're not expected to win 11, 12 games. Some of you threw that expectation out there before the season started, which was asinine. But you got a rude awakening in week one. I think you've recalibrated your expectations for the season now. I would hope, at least, right? While this is going to be a fun season offensively, this could be a nightmare defensively if things don't change. But here's the kicker. Everyone might be sharing the same nightmare in the division defensively, which means you're telling me we got a chance. You're telling me we got a chance. Who knew that 7 field goals in beating the lowly New York Giants would be good enough to get you a piece of first place? Get you a slice of first place. Who knew? I damn sure didn't. I just was happy to beat the Giants in that little streak that they were on, win a division game, get into the left-hand column. I was just happy to do the bare minimum here, right? Then you look up, Cowboys get their ass torn out of the frame. Pause. And then the Eagles turn around and blow a sure victory and turn it into a loss, and all of a sudden, it's a 3-way tie for first. Well, I'll be. 7 field goals can get you a slice of first place. Never knew. Feeling really good right now. And, this week in particular makes this win and the subsequent losses by the Cowboys and the Eagles. We were the only team in the division to win this week, right? We'll get to that around the NFC East here in a second. But you know what makes it a little bit even more enjoyable is the fact that we don't play till Monday. And I don't know what's going to happen on Sunday. I don't know if the Eagles will bounce back next weekend, go on the road and give the Saints their first loss of the season. I don't know if the desperate Baltimore Ravens show up at AT&T Stadium and get their first win of the season, or if they fall to 0-3. I don't really know what's going to happen, right, with those teams. I don't know if the Giants will get their first win of the season versus the Cleveland Browns. I have no clue. Here's what I do know. We have an extra day, right, to enjoy the fruits of our labor from Sunday. We don't have a press conference. We don't have practice until Thursday. So we get to bask in this first place. I get it. It's 2 games in. We're 1-1. We beat the Giants, yada, yada, yada. Nobody's going to rain on my parade. You can't make me feel bad about having a slice of first place. Can't do it. And you know what's crazy? For as bad as our defense has been this season, you could argue, and there was a question posed by my guy C-Mac last night as to ranking the division's defenses. And I put us in third, but you could argue, again, all of the defenses in this division are trifling. You could argue that we got the best defense in the division. We got the best defense in the division, and you might not be wrong. It's hard for me to put us first, having watched what I've watched, knowing that we probably have the worst set of corners in the division. And that's tough because we don't have a pass rush that is going to alleviate the pressure from those corners unless something changes within the scheme or some of the players that we have all of a sudden turn into Johnny Badasses. That's probably not going to change. And if you can't stop the pass in this league, you can't consistently play winning defense. It's just how it goes. It sucks when you can't stop the run, but it also equally sucks if you can't stop the pass. And as a wise man once told me, points come through the pass game. Points come through the pass game. And if you can't stop a team from throwing the football, you're going to give up points. You're going to give up a lot of points. So we'll see, right? But damn, it feels good to be in first place. Did not have that on my bingo card coming out of week 1's loss versus Tampa, that we would be here a week later talking about a victory Monday, and then that next day, that Tuesday, talking about being tied for first place in the division. Couldn't have told me after week 1's loss that 8 days later we'd be talking about being in first place. Wouldn't have believed you. Wouldn't have believed you. Now, again, it's week 2, right? Take it with a grain of salt. But we weren't in this position, first place, since last year in week 2. And then the season went to hell in a handbasket. I don't think that's what's going to happen this time around. I don't think that's what's going to happen this time around. And here's the beautiful part, is even if we're struggling, I don't think the rest of the division is running away and hiding and going anywhere. I don't think the rest of the division is going anywhere. Again, keep in mind, this division has to play Tampa, New Orleans. All of a sudden, New Orleans is a juggernaut, right? We'll see what they do with the Eagles here on Sunday, right? Tampa already sunk their teeth into us, just went on the road and beat Detroit. Now they got the Eagles next week, right? Eagles have Saints this week, Bucks next week. Ouch. Double ouch. Speaking of which, let's get to in other news, right? So we can take that trip around the NFC East. Before we do that, let's handle a little bit of Commanders news quickly. The Commanders had one available spot on their practice squad, and they finally used it. I was wondering what they were waiting on. I guess they figured, look, we're not going to just fill up the practice squad just to be filling up the practice squad. But today they announced that they signed cornerback Kayvon Seymour to their practice squad. Again, more depth at the cornerback position. It's a position that we sorely need bodies at right now. And, we brought up Bobby Price from the practice squad to the active roster on Sunday. And so they're going to continue to juggle around the cornerback position and see, what they can do. Obviously, with Emmanuel Forbes being placed on IR, that prompted them to have an extra spot available. They moved someone up onto the active roster, and so the practice squad spot became available, and they finally filled that spot with another corner. So we'll see if that bears any fruit for this team moving forward. So let's get to around the NFC East. For those of you who haven't been paying attention to the other teams in the division, obviously you know what happened here with Washington on Sunday. Washington took care of the New York Giants in thrilling fashion with 7 field goals, including a walk-off field goal as time expired from newly acquired kicker Austin Seibert, who all of a sudden has become a household name around these parts with 7 field goals, setting a Commanders record. Got the game ball after the game. It was a really cool moment, and it was really cool to just see him kind of bask in this kind of newfound stardom that he stumbled upon here with 7 field goals in his first game as a Commander. And I've said this already, and I'm waiting to see what happens, but I'm pretty sure he's going to win NFC Special Teams Player of the Week, and that will be the second week in a row that we've had a player on this team win an NFL award. Week 1, Jaden Daniels won Pepsi Offensive Rookie of the Week. So I think that's going to be 2 weeks in a row that someone here is walking away with some sort of NFL acknowledgement. I want to say this too before we get into the rest of the division. I didn't say this yesterday. I meant to say this yesterday. The gold pants pop. Do you agree or disagree? The gold pants pop for me. I would much prefer the gold pants over the white or the all burgundy, even though the all burgundy is clean. We never win with that. And maybe they can run it back this year, all burgundy, and we can try our hand at it with this new group because I keep saying it feels different because it is different. And if I'm going to live by that mantra, I have to erase all of the past traumas and give this group an opportunity to show me that it's different. I wouldn't mind seeing Berg on Berg because that's pretty clean, but man, burgundy on gold, it popped for me through my screen. I felt warm and fuzzy. It looked good. I wouldn't mind that being the standard home get up moving forward. That's not going to be what they're doing right now. The gold pants aren't going to be an every home game affair. We'll only get that every so often. I think they're going to wear the gold pants 4 times this year, I believe. So that's 1 down and I think 3 to go. But I wouldn't mind seeing the gold pants at home as the standard package moving forward. What says you? How'd you feel about the gold pants? Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways? Let me know in the comment section. So let's continue around the league. So obviously us beating the Giants took care of 2 teams in the division. Giants are now 0-2. They have the Cleveland Browns in week 3. Browns are coming off of a win on the road at Jacksonville. So we'll see what happens in that game. If nothing else, I expect the Browns defensively to dominate the Giants and find a way to win that game, even though I think the Browns offensively stink. They're funky on offense right now. And that means the Giants can get them if they go in there, don't turn the ball over, and you know, play competent offense like they did against us. But we all know Daniel Jones plays better against us and Pitt plays lousy against everyone else. So who knows what will happen there. But let the losers worry about losing. They're in the basement. They're in the cellar by themselves. Why? Because there's a 3-way tie for first in the division, and we're a part of it. We get the win over the Giants. We get to 1-1, and we watch the Cowboys get dismantled, disassembled, and taken apart limb by limb, piece by piece by the New Orleans Saints. I was in the mob chat watching the game, the Commanders game, but I was giving them updates on the Saints game for those who weren't watching that game as well. And Alvin Kamara was just terrorizing the Cowboys. It started off with a bomb to Shaheed, who, look out, Deshaun Jackson. The NFL might have a new deep ball king. This guy is an animal when it comes to the deep ball. Look, we don't play the Saints until after the bye week, which is like week 15 or 16. And I'm already sweating bullets knowing that this guy is going to probably have 3, 67-yard touchdowns against us because this dude is so dynamic as a deep ball catch. And Derek Carr is just throwing dimes down the field right now. That one to him to start the game off was incredible because he had a rusher in his face and he throws that thing up and it dropped out of the sky perfectly. And he gets into the end zone, and then it was the Alvin Kamara show from there. 4 touchdowns for Kamara. It was 35-16 at halftime. It was 35-13 after they scored their last touchdown. The Cowboys got a field goal right before the half to cut the deficit to 19, only to have an interception in the third quarter and then another Alvin Kamara touchdown. And that thing got out of control very quickly. 42-19 was the final score in that game. It was a walloping of epic proportions, one that I enjoyed thoroughly, start to finish. And so seeing that happen, understanding that I've already felt like going into the season that we all laughed and joked about Jerry talking about the Cowboys were all in, this, that, and we kind of felt like the Cowboys weren't going to be as good this season. So when they got beat up like that, the only thing that made me feel good about was the fact that they tried to really minimize the loss of Dan Quinn. They tried to sell us on, Mike Zimmer is going to be an upgrade over Dan Quinn, and this defense was extraordinary in week 1, and look out for the Dallas Cowboys. Here they come. Oh, okay, cool. And so week 2 was just a reminder to everybody that thought that this was going to just be this, Mike Zimmer uprising and he was going to come in there and this defense was just going to be on top. Oh, okay, cool. They had to come crashing back down to earth. But I didn't think Dallas was going to be this juggernaut team this year. I've said this. The max win total for Dallas this year is 10. And that's if they do everything right. They're a 10-win team. I think they're a 9 or 10-win team this season. It wouldn't shock me if they're an 8-win team this season. Okay, they're not a good football team or a great football team. They're a solid football team. But solid is 8 or 9 wins, right? And if they are able to create turnovers, don't turn it over themselves, stay relatively healthy, and have the ball kind of bounce their way, they can get to 10. And watching that Saints game, it's not the end all be all, but it to me is a reminder of the Cowboys aren't what they once were. And Jerry being all in this offseason was all in on making sure that the Cowboys are going in reverse. That's what he was all in on, right? Then, but what I didn't anticipate this week was the Eagles on Monday Night Football losing to the Falcons. Now, did I think this game would be competitive? Yeah, I did. I did think that the Falcons would show up and be competitive, but I thought that the Eagles would win this game. And I thought they would win it, I won't say comfortably, but I thought they'd win this game by 9 points or something like that, where, you know, they kind of felt like, okay, the Falcons had their chances. They didn't take full advantage. And they did. They had opportunities. They got into the red zone. They were moving the ball consistently throughout the night on that Eagles defense. But when they got in the red zone, they had to settle for field goals. And so I thought it would be one of those games where, okay, you know, they had their chances. They didn't score. Just like Green Bay. Green Bay had their chances on those turnovers early in the game, and they settled for field goals. And so you're like, you had your shot. You didn't want to take it. So now the Eagles are going to win the game. And I thought it was going to end up being one of those types of games. And as it kind of played out, you know, it got to 18-15, which is what I thought would happen. And when they went for it on fourth down and didn't get it, what a play by Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Once, you know, that play happened and they got stopped, I said, okay, they lost this game. Valiant effort, Atlanta. Put a charge into them. You scared them a little bit, but the Eagles will prevail here and win. And all Saquon Barkley had to do was catch the football. And he didn't. And what he effectively did was he opened up a can of worms by dropping that football, because it now allows people. I watched Lord Brunson's stream last night when he got home. He went to the game and he talked about Nick Sirianni needed to run the football, right? He should have run it in that situation. And to me, I don't think he was wrong on that call. I get what you're saying, but if you catch that football, this is what you're paying Saquon Barkley to do, right? You can't have it any easier than that. Like, catch the damn ball and the game is over. And what that drop effectively did was it opened up a can of worms. It opened up the ability for Nick Sirianni to be criticized, because if that play goes as planned and scripted, if he catches that football, gets the first down, they win the game 18-15. Nobody's complaining. As a matter of fact, people will say, what a ballsy call. What a gutsy call, right? And they're going to give him all kinds of props and accolades and pats on the back. But instead, now people are coming after him. People are criticizing him, right? People are pointing the finger at Nick Sirianni. Oh, this is what happens when shit doesn't go well. Now we start digging up other shit that you didn't do well in the game, like turning down a free 3 points early in the game to go for it on fourth down and not get it. There's no A.J. Brown, so that automatic slant in that third or fourth and short situation that you can always go to, that's always in your back pocket, that slant to A.J. Brown is like an ace in your back pocket that when you need an ace, it's always there. And, it's third and short. Just like the brotherly shove is the ace in their back pocket when they get into short yardage situations, right? They know we can go to the brotherly shove. You can't stop it. Same thing with 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4. We can just go to A.J. Brown on the slant. Well, he's injured, right? So now that third down, that fourth down and 3 that they went for it on, that's not automatic anymore. Now you got to find somebody to go to. And he should take the field goal. Now, if you want to argue something, I think that's something that you could argue. You should take the field goal, right? But he didn't. But had they won the game, people would have been willing to overlook that. Like, it's just Nick being aggressive. You can't fault him for that. But now, after he drops that football and you ultimately lose the game, now we can go back, criticize that decision, criticize your decision to throw the football, yada, 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 et cetera, right? So you open up that can of worms. Then the defense should not have been placed in that position, because they shouldn't have been put back on the field so that they could get, as Lloyd Brunson described, walked down the field on, right? And so I had my whole Denny's bit last night. If you haven't had a chance to watch it, it's hilarious. We had a great time last night. We were singing songs. We were talking about this Eagles defense. It was a great time. We had a time last night. You better go check it out. Anyway, so that you're not lost when I start using terminology from last night's show and you're like, what is he talking about? You had to be there, and you can still be there by going out and checking out that stream from last night. Overtime, Eagles and Falcons. That said, the defense got put on the field and Kirk Cousins surgically ripped them apart. Ripped them absolutely apart limb by limb and was so surgical with that bitch. Scalpel, sponge, right? Scissors, suture, right? He got surgical with that bitch last night, right? Boy, was that quick, fast, and in a hurry. They get in the end zone, take the lead. And then the last thing that happened was Jalen Hurts throws the interception. So now you open him up to criticism. He had a fantastic night last night up until that point. And that throw to Saquon should have capped off a 2022-esque Jalen Hurts type performance where he put the team on his back and led them to a victory. And instead, he ends the game with a nasty interception. And now he opens himself up to criticism because he came off of a game in which he had very poor decision-making, got picked off twice, right? And easily could have been picked off a third time for a pick six, should have been, right? And so it wasn't a great opening performance for him. He bounced back in a major way, and it ended on a very low note because of Saquon Barkley. All of that happened because Saquon Barkley didn't catch the football. Boy, I love to see it. Man, it was fun. And it's fun watching the Eagles fans. Now, you know what? I haven't seen Eagles fans this modest in quite some time. I really have not. Even Lord Brunson after the game was like, I don't see a championship caliber team. I don't see a team that's any good right now. And I think it starts with Howie Roseman. Old ski mask Howie and the shit he did this offseason that people were praising him for. And we kept asking questions. Hey, who getting pressure on the quarterback? Y'all thought that trading away Hassan Reddick was a good idea. And all Eagles fans to a man said, nah, we didn't co-sign that shit. We didn't like that at all. But we're going to see what Bryce Huff does. And now they're seeing Bryce Huff. And I tried to tell them, Bryce Huff is a third down player who's not that damn good. And now they're realizing Bryce Huff's a third down player that ain't that damn good. And I'm like, I told you so. So they figured that out now. And now they're pissed. I'm like, how we did that? How we traded Hassan Reddick? How we gave Hassan Reddick's money to Bryce Huff? How we traded for Jahan Dotson? Where was he last night? Right? These are all Howie Roseman moves. Howie Roseman drafted the edge rusher from Georgia. Howie Roseman drafted all those damn players from Georgia. What are all of them doing? Jalen Carter was suspended, didn't start the game. He was suspended from starting the game because he didn't show up for a team event. Like, these are the dudes you went out and drafted. These are the guys you went out and drafted. Secondary's getting cooked. You went out and got Vic Fangio. Defense looks like hot ass. Hot buns fresh out the oven, or as I call them, Denny's. So I didn't expect the gift that we got last night. We are now in first place. And the Eagles could lose. They play the Saints this weekend in New Orleans, the highest scoring team in the league. And the Eagles defensively are horrible right now. And they're taking that defense to play the team that is the hottest in the league right now in the New Orleans Saints in their building. And they're looking to try to slow them down. Good luck. They're going to need it. And maybe they do. And maybe they make a statement that our defense's struggles have been grossly exaggerated. Maybe that happens. Maybe that happens on Sunday. Or maybe the Saints just keep marching in. They got the Bucs after that. You telling me right now that the Eagles might not end up at 1-3 to start the season off? The Cowboys have the Ravens this week. They're 0-2. They're desperate. Just like we got the 0-2 Bengals who are desperate. They got the 0-2 Ravens who are desperate and foaming at the mouth to get at somebody. They blew a game last week. So they're like, oh, hell no. Somebody got to pay for this shit. I'm like, there they go right there, man. Don't look at me. I didn't take it. But they talking shit over there. There they go. Go get them. They could be 0-2 or 1-2 after, 3 weeks of ball. All I'm saying is, no matter what happens this week, and we'll know before we play our game, no matter what the outcome of our game is, we might still be in first place. Who thought that this would be the case? Who thought that this would be the case? Boy, the NFL is funny. All of a sudden, if we can just get our shit together somewhat on defense, I'm here to tell you, and I hate to put this battery in your back. This is some dangerous shit I'm about to do, and I know this is dangerous, but I'm going to do it anyway. Having watched what I've watched the first 2 games of the season, and I get it, sometimes the first month of the season can be a big head fake. You got to be careful. And teams get better. And defensively, the Eagles may get better. Defensively, we may get better, right? Defensively, the Cowboys may get better. Because I think the Eagles are good on offense. And again, they don't have A.J. Brown. They're going to be fine on offense. They're going to score points this season. Will they be able to outscore their opponents if the defense continues to be a sieve is another question. But we saw them defensively look bad and not be able to offset it with their offense last year. So we know what that movie looks like for the Eagles. And they could be repeating that again this year. But here's what I'm going to tell you, and I probably shouldn't do this shit because this is dangerous. We got a shot this year, guys. A shot that I didn't anticipate us having. We have a shot. Dallas is exactly what I thought they were going to be this year. I didn't pencil in Dallas as a 12-win team. I told you I thought they were a 10-win team at best. They look like an 8-9, maybe 10-win team. 8-9 gives us a shot, right? 8-9 wins gives us a shot. That's all I'm saying. I'm not telling you we're going to win the division because I still think the Eagles are the best team in the division, and I still think the Eagles are going to win 11 games this season. I still think the Eagles are going to win 11 games when it's all said and done. But here's the thing about the Eagles. They got a front-running ass head coach. And after watching the way things fell apart last year, if they get off to a 1-3 start, all hell will break loose. This was a man that almost got fired after last season, if you recall. When they had that meltdown, the Eagles were the last team to make a decision on their head coach. Nick Sirianni was kind of just dangling out in the wind, right? Just kind of blowing in the wind. And then they decided, all right, we'll fire the coordinators. We'll move on from them. You can stay, but you better get your shit together this year. And he was like, okay, I promise. I'm going to get my shit together. Thank you so much for giving me another chance. I'm like, y'all do know this man has made the playoffs 3 years in a row, right? The only Eagles coach in franchise history to start his career with 3 straight trips to the playoffs. And every Eagle fan and everybody in that organization said, so what? And I'm like, okay, shit. I mean, I was just saying. Don't think for 1 second that if this thing goes even remotely sideways, that he won't be in trouble and that this thing can't go off the rails, because it can. We got a shot, man. Listen to what I'm about to say to you. I know this shit sounds foreign to you, and it should. And I know this is crazy talk, but it really isn't. Listen to me. We're the most stable organization in the division right now. Yeah, I know. It's crazy. I know, right? Think about it. Nick Sirianni almost got fired at the end of last season, which means he's skating on thin ice, right? If they have a 3-game losing streak here, which is very possible, having just lost to Atlanta in the fashion that they lost in, which a lot of people, including people in that front office, could be thinking that was on Nick. Nick should have kicked the field goal. Nick should have run the ball there at the end. They could be thinking this one's on Nick, right? It's not on Nick. It's on Saquon Barkley. But they could easily put this one on Nick if they want. You go to New Orleans and let's say the Saints, and look, at some point the Saints are going to cool the hell off, all right? At some point. They've scored on every single possession that starting quarterback Derek Carr has been in the game for. That shit's asinine and it can't continue, right? So maybe this is the week where they cool off and the Eagles sneak them in their own building, right? Bring them back down to earth. Or they could keep the party going, score 38 this week, beat the Eagles 38-20, and now all of a sudden you're on a 2-game losing streak, and now you got to go to Tampa the following week. Or Tampa comes to them. I think they go to Tampa. Good luck with that, with the way they're playing, with the confidence that they're... And they know how to beat Philadelphia. They did it twice last year. Or they did it once last year. They had a chance to do it twice. They could start 1-3, 3 straight losses, and all of a sudden, you know how that Philly media does. They'll tear him to shreds. We know the Giants are just a mess, right? They're a mess right now. We were having conversations about them getting rid of their GM. That's not going to happen. But the fact that we're even having that conversation means that there's a lot of shit going on that's wrong. And a lot of people are pointing fingers at Joe Shane after the Giants appeared on Hard Knocks and the way he went about his business and putting all their business out in the streets and then having the performance that they had in week 1. A lot of people were looking at Joe Shane sideways. You can't fire the GM. Guess who gets fired next? Head coach. I don't think they're going to fire him until he gets a quarterback. But if there are more performances like the one they had in week 1, and then the media was tearing him to shreds after week 2, because apparently, and I did not know this until after the game, Graham Gano had a previous injury, right? The hamstring was already an issue prior to the game. He knew of this knowledge and did not put in a fail-safe. There was no plan in place in case something happened to Graham Gano. And that's why after the game, someone said to me, hey, the New York media is killing Brian Daboll for not having a second kicker. And I said, who keeps a second kicker on the active roster on game day? Nobody does that. Now I know why they were killing him for that. There was already an injury. You knew about it, and you rolled the dice and said, Graham will be fine. And Graham wasn't fine. 2 or 3 more of those blunders, coupled with some more ass whoopings due to Daniel Jones' poor play, and who knows what happens to Brian Daboll. Who knows what happens to Joe Shane. I don't think anything happens, but they're not a stable organization right now. And we don't get me started on Dallas. Your head coach is on a 1-year deal. Your defensive coordinator, everybody's on a 1-year deal, except for Dak, who just got his contract extension. Everybody's on a 1-year deal. You're all in, but you didn't do shit. If the coaching staff doesn't win, you're going to get a new coaching staff in there next year. They're as dysfunctional as dysfunction can be. And at the center of it are the Joneses, and they're not going anywhere. They'll remain dysfunctional as long as those guys are in charge, and they're not going anywhere. Thank God for the Joneses. Protect them at all costs. So yes, believe it or not, right now, we are the most stable organization. That means something too. When you're fighting during the regular season, you don't have to look over your shoulder, worry if your coach is getting fired, worry about who's the GM going to be moving forward. Who's our quarterback going to be, this, that. Like, we don't have those concerns. Giants got to worry about who's our quarterback going to be, right? It ain't Daniel Jones. Who's our quarterback? Like, when you're having those conversations, you're due for a stinking ass season, right? They're out of here. Cowboys don't know who their coach is going to be moving forward, who's going to be their offensive coordinator, who's going to be their defensive coordinator. They got a lot of questions because it ain't going to be Mike McCarthy if they don't not only make the playoffs, but they got to get all the way to the NFC Championship game at a bare minimum for this man to get re-upped. That ain't happening this year. They're not good enough. And here's the kicker. The NFC is wide ass open. Wide open. Why not us? I know I'm crazy and I know I'm talking reckless. It's 2 weeks. We only beat the Giants. I know. You don't think they're having these same conversations in Arizona after putting up 41 points and dismantling the Rams? You don't think they're saying, why not us this year? Why not the damn Cardinals? Why not? Who's stopping you? The Lions look vulnerable. And again, it's early, and the Bucs are a good team. But the Lions have struggled to score in each of their first 2 games. Granted, they played 2 playoff teams from a season ago. As a matter of fact, 2 teams that they played in the playoffs and eliminated a season ago. But that offense doesn't look the same this year. And that might be just a little bit of karma for Ben Johnson's ass, if you know what I mean. But hey, that's nor here nor there. Water under the bridge, right? We're not worried about that, right? 49ers going to be without Deebo Samuel for at least the next 3 to 4 weeks. We know what happens to them when there's no Deebo Samuel. I'm just saying, I'm looking around the landscape of the conference and I'm like, why can't we throw our name in the hat? I'm not saying like go do damage, but why can't we in week 16 look around and say, hey man, I think one of them playoff spots got our name on it. Why not us? Then I'm watching this conference and I'm looking around. I'm looking at our own division and I'm like, why not us? Our defense is just as bad as the rest of them. And our offense might be just as good as the Eagles' offense. We just got to find the end zone. Don't let nobody tell you that 7 scores on 7 drives isn't impressive, whether they field goals or not. You got to get into the position to be able to say, I scored on 7 straight drives. Ain't a lot of teams in the league doing that, man. Now, we got to find the end zone. But the fact that we have the capability to win time of possession, to sustain offense, to move the football, again, 15 drives, 12 scoring opportunities. We're one of the most dangerous offenses right now. We just got to put it in the end zone. And we just scratching the surface. We're not even using Terry yet. We're not throwing the football to our rookies yet. We just figuring this shit out. Noah Brown just got here. He's already having an impact. What happens when he gets more comfortable? We just scratching the surface offensively. This shit is going to get better. I'd love to tell you the same thing about the defense, but I'm not sure anymore. But I still remain resolute in my dedication to this defense being better. I'm just not as sure as I was last week and obviously the week before that, before the season started. But I'm still standing 10 toes down. This defense is going to get better. And I see guys like Benjamin St. Juste individually gaining confidence. I'm just going to say this one more time, and then we're going to get out of here. And I'm sorry if I sound delusional, but I've watched enough football to know that expect the unexpected in the NFL. I'm going to say this one more time because I'm looking at this division, and we can win 4 games in this division this year. The goal was 3. I'm looking at the rest of this division. We should win 4 in this division. Why not? Why not us? Why not us? And you're going to say, because of our defense. You're not wrong. Dallas has the same problem. Philadelphia has the same problem. The Giants have the same problem. What's your next excuse? I'll wait. Offensive line. Touche. I don't love our offensive line, but it's not as bad as you think. It's really not. It's really not. And if you haven't seen already, Jaden Daniels will clean up a lot of the deficiencies of this offensive line along with the run game. There's ways around that. People keep complaining about the short, quick game and the screen game. That's another way to alleviate pressure too. I have no issues with it. As a matter of fact, I love it. Jaden Daniels started 9 of 9 in the game on Sunday. Most of them were screens, hitches, and short passes. Good. Get him into a rhythm. You saw what that got him. 23 of 29 for 226 in a game-winning drive. Get him in a rhythm. Something the last coordinator knew nothing about. Why not us? And I'm pretty sure you got a bag of reasons as to why, and you're not wrong about any of them. I'm just telling you, shit's wide open. We're in first place. Did you have that on your bingo card a week ago? Probably not. Stranger things have happened. Anyway, that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on Commanders Nightly News. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys next time. Until then, I'm your man Louie T, signing off. We'll be live tomorrow night. Trying to figure out how I want the schedule to go this week. It's a little janky because everything's been pushed back a day. Normally, we would have a lot to talk about, but we probably will still be live tomorrow night. I mean, there's still going to be enough things, I think, to discuss, but there's no pressers. There's no practice. There's no injury report. There's no normalcy this week. It's everything's a little bit more, delayed because of Monday night. And, we'll figure it out. But whatever the case may be, you'll see me tomorrow anyway. Until then, take care. Have a good one.
Here comes the diesel. Here comes the diesel. There's the snap, hand to Riggins. Good hole. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone.